The wedding hall looked like something from a magazine. Soft white lights hung from the ceiling, flowers lined the aisle, and a quiet romantic song played in the background. Guests smiled, laughed, and moved from table to table with glasses in their hands. It was supposed to be a perfect evening, the kind people remember for years. Emma Miller stood at the center of it all, glowing in her dress, holding her husband's hand, surrounded by love and attention. Not far from the dance floor, near the back of the hall, Daniel Miller sat quietly. Daniel was Emma's older brother. He wore a clean dark suit and a polite smile, but he felt out of place. He always did at family events. While others spoke loudly and confidently, Daniel listened. While others chased praise, he worked quietly. He had learned long ago that silence was safer. Daniel was 32 and lived in Oregon, far from most of his family. He worked as an urban planner for a small city. It was not a job that impressed people at parties, but it mattered to him. He helped design parks, housing, and public spaces. He believed cities should care for people, not just profit. His work gave him purpose, even if it didn't bring wealth or status. His father, Richard Miller, never understood that Richard sat near the front, laughing loudly, shaking hands, enjoying the attention. He was a retired real estate developer who loved success stories, big deals, and public praise. He believed life was a competition, and winners deserved respect. Losers, in his mind, needed tough lessons. Daniel watched his father from across the room, already feeling a familiar tension in his chest. When dinner ended, the lights dimmed slightly, and the host announced the speeches. Guests turned their chairs toward the stage. Emma squeezed her husband's hand, smiling with excitement. Daniel straightened in his seat. He expected emotional words, maybe jokes, maybe stories from childhood. Richard was the first to stand with a microphone. He cleared his throat and smiled. Broadly, "What a beautiful night," he said. The crowd nodded. "Emma, you've always made us proud. From the moment you were born, we knew you were special." Daniel smiled faintly. That part was true. Richard continued, talking about Emma's hard work, her education, her achievements. People clapped. Emma wiped a happy tear from her eye. Then Richard laughed lightly and glanced around the room. "Of course," he said, "not all my children turned out the same." Daniel felt his stomach tighten. Richard's eyes landed on him. "Daniel has always taken his time in life," Richard said, smiling as if it were harmless humor. "Still figuring things out. Still choosing simple paths." A few guests chuckled. Others looked uncomfortable. Daniel's ears rang. He stared at the tablecloth, his hands clenched under the table. Richard wasn't finished. "I used to worry about Emma's future," he added. "Turns out, I should have worried more about Daniel's." The laughter was thinner this time. Some people didn't clap at all. Daniel felt heat rush to his face. His heart pounded, but his body felt frozen. He could stand up. He could say something. He could defend himself. But years of practice kept him still. He had learned that reacting only made things worse. From another table, Claire Harper noticed him. Claire had known the Miller family since childhood. She was Emma's close friend back in town from Boston for the wedding. She hadn't seen Daniel in years, but she recognized the look on his face instantly. Not anger, not embarrassment. Something deeper. A quiet kind of pain. When Richard finished, people applauded out of politeness. The music returned. Conversations restarted. But something in the room had shifted. Daniel stood up slowly. No one noticed at first as he walked toward the exit. He didn't look back at the stage or at his sister. He didn't want to ruin her night with a scene. He just needed air outside. The night was cold and calm. The parking lot lights hummed softly. Daniel took a deep breath, then another. His chest felt heavy, like something had finally settled there after years of being ignored. He wasn't surprised by what his father said. That almost made it worse. Behind him, the door opened. "Daniel," a soft voice said. He turned to see Claire, standing there, her coat pulled close around her. I saw what happened, she said gently. I'm sorry. Daniel forced a small smile. It's okay. It's just how he is. Claire shook her head. That doesn't make it okay. Daniel looked away, staring at the dark sky. I'm used to it, but the words felt hollow even. To him, they stood in silence for a moment. Music drifted faintly from inside. Laughter. Celebration. Are you coming back in? Claire asked. Daniel thought about it. About sitting at that table. About pretending everything was fine. I don't. Think so? He said quietly. Claire nodded. I understand. They walked back inside together so Claire could grab her bag. Before they parted, she touched his arm lightly. You're doing good work, she said, even if he can't see it. Daniel looked at her, surprised. You know about my job? She smiled. Emma talks about you more than you think. That stayed with him as he drove away from the wedding that night. The road was empty. The sky was clear. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt something shift inside him, not anger, not sadness, but clarity. He realized he was tired of proving himself to someone who never wanted to understand him. As the city lights faded behind him, Daniel made a quiet decision. He didn't know exactly what would change yet. He only knew one thing for sure. He would not stay where he was invisible anymore. Daniel left town early the next morning. The wedding hall was still quiet when he packed his car. The night before felt heavy in his chest, like a door had closed behind him. He didn't wake his family. He didn't leave a note, he told himself. He wasn't running away. He was choosing space. The drive back to Oregon was long and silent. Miles of road passed under gray skies. Daniel replayed his father's words in his head, then slowly forced them away. He focused on the sound of the engine, the movement forward. By the time he reached his apartment, his mind felt clearer, though his heart was still sore. Life settled into a new rhythm. Daniel went to work, stayed late, and kept his head down. He muted the family group chat and let calls go to voicemail. Not out of anger, but because he needed peace. For the first time in years, no one was questioning his choices every day. 2 weeks later, something unexpected happened. Daniel's supervisor called him into a small meeting room. On the table were maps, plans, and reports. The city had approved a new redevelopment project, one that would change a struggling neighborhood. Affordable housing, green spaces, public walkways. A project focused on people, not profit. We want you to lead it, his supervisor said. Daniel felt his breath catch. This wasn't a small assignment. It was a risk, a responsibility, and an opportunity all at once. He said yes without hesitation. The days that followed were intense. Daniel worked long hours, meeting with community leaders, engineers, and city officials. He listened carefully, took notes, and adjusted plans. The work was exhausting, but it felt right. For the first time, his skills were fully trusted. At night, when the apartment felt too quiet, Daniel thought about the wedding, about the moment he walked outside, about how small he had felt. Instead of letting it break him, he poured those feelings into his work. One evening, his phone buzzed with a message. It was from Claire. How are you holding up? Daniel stared at the screen for a moment before replying, better than I expected. That message turned into a short conversation, then another. A few days later, Claire asked about his project. Daniel asked about her life in Boston. The talks were easy, natural, without pressure. Claire had recently left her marketing job. The fast pace and constant stress had worn her down. She was staying with her parents for a while, trying to figure out what came next. She admitted she felt lost. Daniel understood that feeling well. Their messages slowly turned into phone calls. Sometimes they talked about the past, sometimes about dreams they had never said out loud. Claire listened in a way Daniel wasn't used to. She didn't interrupt. She didn't judge. Late one night, Claire said quietly, I always thought you were strong, not loud strong, steady strong. Daniel was silent for a moment. I don't feel strong, he admitted. I just don't like fighting. "That's not weakness," she said. "That's control." Her words stayed with him. Weeks passed. The project gained momentum. Community groups supported it. Local leaders spoke positively about Daniel's approach. He was invited to meetings he would never have been invited to before. Slowly, his confidence grew. Claire visited Oregon once. Under the excuse of seeing the city, they met for coffee. The moment felt natural, like they were continuing a conversation that had never ended. They walked through a park Daniel had helped design years earlier. He explained his ideas. She listened with interest, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. There was a quiet closeness between them. No rushing, no promises. Just comfort. 2 months after the wedding, everything changed again. It was a Friday evening. Daniel had just finished a long day and was heating dinner when his phone started ringing. It's an unknown number. He ignored it. Then another call. And another. Messages filled his screen. Missed calls stacked up. His chest tightened. Then he saw a name he hadn't seen in weeks. Dad calling. Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he checked his voicemail. His father's voice sounded different. Urgent, tense, almost shaken. "Daniel, call me back now." Confused. Daniel opened his laptop. A news article loaded on the screen. His photo stared back at him. The headline spoke about the redevelopment project. It's about leadership, about vision, about impact. Daniel sat down slowly. The project had gone public, bigger than he ever imagined. As his phone continued to buzz, Daniel realized something important. 2 months ago, he had walked out of a wedding feeling invisible. Now, without trying to impress anyone, he had become impossible to ignore. And somewhere between the long nights, the quiet work, and the unexpected connection with Claire, Daniel had changed not into someone louder, but into someone stronger than before.